you're making a big mistake here by not telling the truth.
It's a gritty look at life on the mean streets of LA. Crime and punishment. Cops on the edge. Except they sing and they dance. What? No, that's what it says here in the script. They sing and they dance. I shit you not. Cop rock. Cop rock is many things. Cop rock is a down and dirty look at law enforcement, starting off with the death of a police officer in Los Angeles and a suspected killer being caught by a detective and then executed. And then they start singing.
She left me standing in the danger zone.
I don't mean they're in the squad car and singing along to the radio. I mean actual song and dance numbers. You see, cop rock is also a musical, where characters will express their hopes and dreams, angst and fears through the medium of song.
It's been a hard day.
What cop rock absolutely is not is a comedy, which is an absolute shame since it's the funniest thing I've seen in weeks. In hindsight, watching Wings alongside this was a mistake.
Neither of you is gonna like it.
From the moment it was announced, cop rock became infamous. Not just as a show with a goofy premise that was quickly cancelled after failing to find enough of an audience, but it was considered a major failure.
You gotta hump it to pump it.
11 episodes were made, though its ratings were quite poor from the start. It really did come to no surprise to anyone when it was yanked off the air.
I can't believe they cancelled us.
Well, it was no surprise to anyone else. So let's look at the serious dramatic part. A suspected cop killer is arrested and cuffed, but due to bungling by rookie detectives, it's clear an arrest won't stick, so growling detective LaRusso decides to execute the prisoner. Squeaky clean and gravelly voiced Captain Hollander doesn't buy it, and very quickly those covering for LaRusso realise they'd better come clean. LaRusso is charged, gets some high-priced lawyers, sleeps with one of them who's got a kink for killers. LaRusso's partner Potts is caught between a rock and a hard place, debating whether to vouch for his murderous partner or testify against him.
From time to time.
There's Officer Vicky Quinn, whose partner Andy Campo makes it known he's up for something, while Vicky's older husband, forensic expert Lieutenant Ralph Ruskin, has made his mind up that his wife is cheating on him. Officer Rose has to break in a new partner. Gaines, a friendly but slightly irritating detective, sent back to uniform. Police Chief Kendrick wishes he was a cowboy and seems to have his foot permanently lodged in his mouth.
Will you have the simple decency to wait until I finish the song?
While his deputy, Commander Osborne, has to do the thinking for both of them. And lastly, there's the mayor, who's angling at a tilt at the Senate, apart from the fact that focus groups can't stand one thing in particular.
Plug ugly, too ugly to live, ugly enough to scare horses and children, and ugly enough to stop trains.
So she has plastic surgery and then falls for the police chief. Sounds pretty standard for a cop show in 1990.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, 4 or 5 times an episode, one or more people just break into song, whether it's the main cast, some folks on a police lineup, some homeless people, some rich addicts who've been arrested, gang members, local people sick of the violence in their community, grieving parents, whoever. It really doesn't matter because a song will come from nowhere like a water balloon dropped out of an office window during a parade.
None of these hotshots around here know the difference between making the bust and making the case.
The show is deathly serious for the most part, and then it's just so ridiculous you can't help but laugh.
You're gonna do radio and TV. Gonna get a whole lot of sympathy.
And then you've got to get back into the serious drama before, oh god, someone's singing again.
He's guilty, Judge, he's guilty.
I mean, they're not comedy songs. A lot of the subject matter is very heavy, it's very serious. So the swings in tone make you feel like you're watching Mr. Bean's obituary. You shouldn't laugh, but... Stephen Bochco was a big deal in television in the 80s and 90s. He'd already created, co-created or developed several hits like Hill Street Blues, LA Law or Doogie Howser MD. He previously had written for 70s classics Columbo and even did a little bit of work on the pilot for The $6 Million Man.
You know that you're the one.
When Hill Street Blues was in production, he was approached about turning that series into a Broadway show. That obviously didn't happen, but Bochco had the idea of turning the Broadway-style musical into a cop show. Sometimes, try as we might, we can't let go of terrible ideas. Like how Auntie Beryl still insists her investment in a company making fax machines will one day come good, despite her being banned from Japan over the incident at the Tokyo Game Show in 2002. Bochco had a deal with ABC to create 10 new series. One of those would end up being Doogie Howser, a hit. Another of those was Cop Rock, an idea that literally nobody other than Bochco liked. People weren't merely unsure of the idea, they were absolutely positive it was a bad idea. Bochco's track record was such that he was able to convince a skeptical network to schedule Cop Rock in the TV season beginning in the fall of 1990. Bochco worked with writer William Finkelstein to develop the series, creating dramatic situations and characters.
Postmortem lividity has not as of yet set in.
Of course, with there being so many songs needed every episode, songwriters were also brought in to writing sessions. One of the people approached to write for the series was singer-songwriter Randy Newman, who had a number of hit songs that all sounded slightly similar, and hadn't begun the phase of his career where he wrote many of his songs for Pixar movies which all sounded slightly similar. Newman would write songs for the pilot as well as the show's theme song. The show's opening credits would show Newman performing the song that sounded slightly familiar, with the show's regular cast grooving away out of character. Bochco would pitch the show to a number of people as Hill Street Blues, but a musical.
When I saw you fall.
To oversee the musical side of the show, Bochco brought in composer Mike Post. Post had already written or co-written with the late Pete Carpenter a number of themes for many hit series, including themes for most of Bochco's biggest successes. Cop Rock would not be one of those. Post brought in a number of songwriters, among them Greg Edmondson, who'd later write the music for the TV show Firefly and the Uncharted games. Also credited is Amanda McBroom, who as an actress appeared in shows like The Magician or Star Trek The Next Generation. 4 or 5 songs a show was not an insignificant number to prepare for a series where each episode was shot in 8 days.
What's crazy is we are standing here arguing over a bucket of chicken.
In the cast, there are some familiar faces here and there, some more familiar than others, some you'll know from other things, and a few are just a blank. But that also might be the effects of the amnesia ray that I willingly subjected myself to after binging Wings.
Sure, I remember.
Bochco cast the series by voices first, acting ability second. Not just for practical reasons, but for various unexplained reasons, the series often went with recording the actors singing on the set, rather than having them mime to a pre-recorded playback.
We had a 187 at the 7-Eleven on the corner of 4th and Main.
I mean, the technical achievement is great, but sounds like a nightmare in practice. The music in Cop Rock is varied, with a lot of sad ballads, a lot of blues-sounding songs, some energetic hip-hop, some soul music, a little gospel, a little bit of country, and a little bit of rock and roll. But thankfully Donnie and Marie are nowhere to be seen.
You all through being hysterically funny?
Decades after Cop Rock's failure, the idea of a TV series musical has been done much more successfully, but with a vital difference. They've generally stuck to a lighter subject matter, rather than concentrating on heavy-going dramatic fare.
Then you better not waste my time.
Watching Cop Rock now, the constant switching between a serious drama exploring systemic issues in law enforcement and the lives of the people involved, and then a song starts up, giving you whiplash as if you're in a 15-car pileup.
A VCR, one for you and me. They got a water fountain in the John.
I started watching this show thinking the drama part was a bit on the nose, but then started to get into the storylines. And then bam, you hear a piano and another bloody song starts up. Some of the songs are okay, not super memorable, but they were decent enough.
It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright.
And then sometimes they just get a bit ridiculous, and then a little bit more ridiculous.
This is your lucky day. We're going for.
Maybe this show is a lock for the most unintentionally funny show ever made. But without the musical part of the show, does it have any humour to lighten the serious mood? There's a young cop whose enthusiasm makes his reluctant partner cringe, and to make the viewer cringe, practically anything to do with Ronny Cox's character. Most especially, whatever the hell this is in his office closet. The absurdities of the relationship between the police chief and the mayor seems really out of place with what's going on with the other characters.
Cop Rock will continue in a moment.
Well, that's overly optimistic. It does show that the makers of the show had tongues planted firmly in cheek.
What more could a man ask for?
A great mount.
Also, prolonged cheek-planted tongues does sound quite painful.
She fanned the fire. I felt the heat.
They would reference another of Bochco's series, Hill Street Blues, in a song based around one of that series' most quoted lines.
Let careful out there.
And ended with another callback to that show. 11 episodes of Cop Rock were made. The first 10 episodes covered LaRusso as he murders a suspect, is indicted, is briefly imprisoned, bailed out, and then there's his trial, resulting in an acquittal. And then he gets sent back to the exact same precinct, which is a reset button if ever there was one. The show's ratings were poor, but it was also quite expensive to make, so cancellation was inevitable. The show's 11th episode's main plot was relatively self-contained, but then the last act didn't just break the fourth wall, it demolished it.
I only got one song the whole time.
Well, you're not really a singer.
We end with a song about the show's cancellation. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. But then she sang, and so that was it. Cop Rock drifted off into obscurity and became a punchline.
Did they really make a serious cop show as a musical?
It's the sort of thing that sounds like a Simpsons joke, when The Simpsons was good.
Quit your bitching. I heard it all before.
Cop Rock did win 2 Emmy Awards, one each for editing and music for the show's pilot episode. Consider that bone thrown.
I put a little taste for everyone.
There's a taste for everyone.
Either way, Bochco was still proud of it as a risk, but he'd quickly bounce back in 1993 with NYPD Blue, which would run for 12 years. Cop Rock was made by 20th Century Fox, who would later hit pay dirt with another musical series, Glee. Disney now owns Fox and has their own history of musical programs. Does that mean you should expect a revival of Cop Rock anytime soon?
What? Who asked you to cut that deal?
God, no, please, it's been done. Cop Rock was a thing I remember seeing on Entertainment Tonight years ago when they were previewing the new season of shows that year, and Cop Rock was the show that every reviewer rolled their eyes at. Viewers couldn't make the leap to a cop musical. So, look, I'd heard about it, never seen it, and I was curious to review it. And now I have, and now I never have to think about it again.
Cop Rock will continue in a moment.
Perhaps not. It's not as absolutely terrible as its reputation would suggest, because it did make me laugh an awful lot, but I would guess rarely in the way that the program makers intended.
Turn your back.
Oh, Mr. Heart Attack.
I wouldn't recommend it unless you are morbidly curious, and even then you'll get the idea just by watching the first episode. I watched the first episode, and apart from laughing like a drain, I sort of got into it. Because Cop Rock really is a show that you will enjoy best by laughing at it. It sounds cruel, but I don't make the rules.
Bye bye, my baby.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.